buy to clear. The 23 will be the best year yet.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
In 1623, Shakespeare published Macbeth, a brief but brilliant tragedy that explored human frailty and isolation, set against the backdrop of a grotesque political narrative. Upon finding the crumpled and twisted corpse of his wife, moments after her suicide, the Scottish king and titular protagonist reflects on each man and woman's lack of consequence, the transitory and capricious nature of a single life by calling it a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Macbeth was describing mortality, not fiction, but these days critics use that quote to mock and deride our most hollow and insipid entertainment. Meaningless eye candy, bread and circuses, bad movies, reality TV, TikToks, and streaming content. And so, for many of us who have grown accustomed to the derivative pig slop that DC Studios regularly churns out in postmodern Hollywood, that's exactly the quote that came to mind as we watched the latest teaser for James Gunn's vapid, asinine, bleak, nihilistic reimagining of Supergirl, which is coming to your theaters in 2026. We took one look at that slovenly blonde drunk at the bar, that hungover spring break pump and dump daddy issues party girl, that greasy and smeared, promiscuous, for the streets jaded and bitter slob masquerading as the hooker with a heart of gold. Her CGI mutt literally pissing on our memory of the masculine heroes of the past, and we thought to ourselves, this film is indeed a tale told by an idiot, full of gaudy, frivolous spectacle and tired tropes, desperately compensating for its lack of depth and consequence with bombastic, cartoonish action and raunchy humor, signifying nothing. In fact, Supergirl 2026 is a tale told by three idiots, an idiot trifecta as it were. Writer Anna Nogueira, best known not for writing anything of substance, but for her wooden and detached, I'm reading my lines off a dummy card just out of frame like Marlon Brando, style of performance in the True Blood knockoff Vampire Diaries.
Keep your hands where I can see them.
Sorry, am I doing something illegal?
Depends on where those blood bags in your trunk came from.
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
Director Craig Gillespie, who makes DEI hire filmmakers like Nia DaCosta look like groundbreaking visionaries, and of course the real puppet master steering the DC universe back into a quagmire of cultural oblivion and justifying the quote marks around the first two.
Hey everybody, I'm James Gunn. I'm the co-CEO of DC Studios.
If you believe the rumors, at private screenings in mid-December 2025, test audiences expressed their dismal apathy, their lukewarm confidence in Gunn's reboot of Supergirl loud and clear.
It's not a very high bar to clear.
Sincere, organic excitement for this movie is lackluster at best. But at this point, it's a bit late for a page one rewrite, isn't it, James? Instead, maybe have your little bro come out for another cringe-inducing press tour to remind us that Kal-El and his sister are allegorical equivalents to the illegal aliens crossing our southern border, and that's why we need to fork over $16 a person to go see your next movie. Because that certainly galvanized our enthusiasm last time, didn't it? The phrase out of touch barely scratches the surface of an iceberg when considering how diametrically opposed postmodern Hollywood is with the current zeitgeist of American culture. No matter how many times we scream from the rooftops on social media or at the ballot box that we are looking for a return to an America First style of patriotism and love of country, a return to traditional values and conservative, classy depictions of powerful, dangerous men and voluptuous hourglass femme fatales, of masculinity, femininity, the nuclear family, and the absolute Christ-ordained morality of good and evil, Hollywood refuses to listen. They plug their ears and stick their heads right back into the ground, returning to that reliable echo chamber wherein they will only be told that their regurgitated hive mind filth is stunning and brave, transgressive, and subverting expectations. However, this Supergirl movie's worse. Not for what it fails at, but for what it could have been, were it put into the capable hands of a better filmmaker, a man like S. Craig Zahler, Duncan Jones, Daniel Espinosa, and not the enfeebled myopic mind of a literary coward like James Gunn. With Gunn as the captain of this ship, at this point you know what you're gonna get. Long before you arrive at the theater, your course will be a safe and predictable humiliation ritual. You will know within the first 10 minutes exactly which characters must be allowed to live and who is expendable. You will know who will win and who will lose, who will be the butt of every joke, to avoid any backlash about punching down. Case in point, the There's a specific moment in the Supergirl teaser wherein we all realized not only that this story is irreversibly doomed, we were reminded why it never had a chance in hell of ever being any good. It's this moment right here.
Okay, this does not look like this is gonna end well. For you guys.
This sucks more than anything that has ever sucked before.
That line from many of us is the last nail in this movie's coffin. We don't need to see a full trailer. It's dead on arrival. And not just because Millie Alcock's tossing out a completely predictable quip that we've heard a variation of in a dozen action films before. I can explain why, but it requires us going back in time a bit. Not to the beginning of DC movies, but close to it. To one of the greatest sequels ever made. We're going back.
Get him! Come to me, son of Jor-El! Kneel before Zod!
To 1980's Superman 2.
Let me know if this tickles.
Corny and even cartoonish for its time, sure. Laughable effects outdated and obsolete by today's standards, no question. But this movie's maudlin theme and storytelling, the lasting cultural impact of this flick is freaking Schindler's List when compared to the lick-spittles dribble that Warner Bros. And DC have served to you in the past 5 years. There were 2 moments in my youth where the cinema simultaneously traumatized me and inspired me beyond measure. I was 7 years old when I watched with abject horror as Emperor Palpatine tortured my greatest hero, Luke Skywalker, with electrocution, and I was sure Luke was going to die. Everyone points to Vader's revelation at the end of Empire as the pinnacle moment in that trilogy.
I am your father.
But for me, his secret paled in comparison to the Dark Lord's redemption arc at the end of Episode 6. Injured beyond repair by the rage of his own embattled son, in the ultimate demonstration of good triumphing over evil, Christ over Satan, the bond of father and son prevailing over government tyranny and corruption, Anakin answers the plea for help from his dying boy by supplanting the programming which prompted him to commit a genocide for decades, sacrificing his own life and killing his own master, slaying the devil himself to save the young prodigy he tried so desperately to corrupt with temptation mere hours before. For me, a kid who already loved his own dad and saw him as a hero, that ending empowered me beyond expression. I offer that for context because the only other time I'd felt so fortified by a movie in my youth was 3 years later, watching Superman 2 with commercials on network TV on a 12-inch screen. Before I continue, a quick spoiler alert. Unlike James Gunn's recycled and cynical trash, the original Christopher Reeves Superman movies, the first 2 at least, are worth seeing for yourself. Please don't let me ruin either of them for you with this video essay.
Why do you say this to me, when you know I will kill you for it?
Superman 2 was co-written by Mario Puzo, better known for the Godfather movies. We remember him today as a master in the creation of compelling protagonists, and Puzo's literary voice stands out clearly in this script. His perfectly balanced version of Superman is presented as compassionate as he is stoic, a father figure and even a bit of a Christ allegory, as selfless and generous in his service to the United States as he is simultaneously independent and omnipotent. He seems to need nothing from anyone and lives only to serve his country. A true patriot.
I'm in love with you.
Therefore, the greatest story arc Puzo could offer us in Superman 2 would be one in which Kal-El suffers temptation and allows himself a moment of human vulnerability. So we see him, in this sequel, pursue every American man's greatest fulfillment, to be a father and husband, providing protection and service to a loyal wife and children. And it comes at exactly the right time, when Kal-El decides to abandon his role as Earth's protector for the sake of his romance with Lois. No one in the audience begrudges him his right to a normal life, to spend it with the woman he loves. He's been forced to hide his identity and live friendless, in complete isolation for over 2 decades. And through his decision, we see our own human frailty, our primal instinct to seek the fulfillment of lifelong companionship. Matthew 19:5 rings true in every American man's story, whether it's science fiction or the real world. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and his mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. It's natural, it's normal, and it's right. But it comes at a steep price. To live a normal life, Kal-El must enter a chamber wherein the red sun of Krypton will drain him of all his powers, and he will become an ordinary man.
You will feel like an ordinary man. You can be hurt like an ordinary man.
Even at 10 years old, I could justify in my head what Superman was doing. I understood that marriage meant sacrificing freedom. It meant no longer living for your own pursuits, but for others, which is why it's so important to not waste that commitment on the wrong woman. So you can imagine how horrified I was as a kid in the diner scene, watching Superman, a hero I admired as much as Luke Skywalker, now reduced permanently to his Clark Kent alter ego, beaten and humiliated by Rocky, the burly guy at the bar top who steals Kal-El's seat while he's in the bathroom and makes a move on Lois. It was viscerally jarring as a kid to see blood leak out of Superman, to see him pummeled and floored, to see that he'd made a tragic mistake. That's why his redemption arc works so perfectly in this sequel. It was so much better implied by our screenwriter, Mario Puzo, and not overtly expressed through dialogue, that companionship is something Superman was never meant to have. He lives only to serve us, and to do so alone. Broken and bloodied on the floor by an ordinary trucker, it's fitting that at such a moment, Lois and Clark then have this exchange.
He's gonna be fine. Just give me that. Clark?
Blood. It's my blood. I think maybe we ought to hire a bodyguard from now on.
I don't want a bodyguard. I want the man I fell in love with.
I know that, Lois. I wish you were here.
It's also fitting that at this very moment, Zod reveals himself on the diner's TV, and Kal-El realizes just how detrimental his decision to put himself and his own happiness before his service to us has now become. He watches in horror as the president of the country he has sworn to protect is pushed down to his knees by a supervillain deity that only he, Kal-El, and the identity he abandoned can destroy. Superman 2 may be uplifting at its conclusion, especially watching Kal-El himself restore the American flag to its rightful place at our capital and reaffirm his oath of service to the American president.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Sorry I've been away so long. I won't let you down again.
But like Puzo's Godfather, on second viewing you realize this story is at its heart a tragedy. Forsaking forever the love of his life, Superman sacrifices his own happiness by brainwashing Lois with a kiss that erases her knowledge that Clark and Kal-El are the same person. And he didn't have to do that. He could have said,
Deal with it.
and walked off, leaving her heartbroken, condemned to pine and yearn for him for the rest of her life.
Lois, it may not be easy for you to hear this now, but someday you'll...
Clark. Look. Don't tell me that I'll meet somebody. You're kind of tough act to follow, you know?
It would have been incredibly selfish, but also the undeniably human decision. Kal-El could have given in to his human frailty, the temptation to maintain that daily ego boost, a longing look from Lois from across the office, perhaps indulging in a weekly makeout session with her in the utility closet whenever he was feeling down or lonely. I'm not being intentionally crude here. Remember that while Superman erases her memory of their romance, he still has to walk away from it desperately in love with her. None of that agony changes for him. But choosing himself would not fulfill Superman's redemption arc. He comes to realize in this story that his true service to Americans as their father figure is not only protecting their lives and their freedom, but protecting their pursuit of happiness as well. And that includes Lois.
You're what I thought was Superman.
Sorry.
This is really embarrassing.
So, with the greatest humility, Kal-El willingly returns to being seen as a bumbling idiot in Lois's eyes, not to ensure that his identity remains secret. He knows he can trust her with that. He does it because he cares more for her than he does his own future and fulfillment, even if that means eventually she gets over her Superman crush and settles on another man, one he has to watch from afar, fathering the children he might have had. Or perhaps even worse, because Margot Kidder's iteration of Lois is in her mid-30s, Superman would watch her turn old and gray and never marry and die alone with her cats, while he remained immortal and immortally in love with her, pining himself for the life they never had. That is true heroism. And that's the lesson I learned from that movie as a kid.
I am your singing telegram.
So why did I bring all that up? My point in all this is to ask you this question. Do you really think you're going to get a Mario Puzo level of depth and complexity from James Gunn and Supergirl in 2026? Do you think that Millie Alcock's Don't Need No Man iteration of Kal-El's older sister will have a fraction of the inspirational heroism that the 1980s Superman offered us? Do you think we're going to see a redemption arc like the diner scene in Superman 2, where Gunn's Supergirl is beaten and broken down by one man or several of them and has a sudden revelation that changes her perspective completely? You already know the answer to that question.
Okay, this does not look like this is gonna end well. For you guys.
When I say this movie never had a chance of being any good, I'm talking about the reality of creating a Supergirl movie in the postmodernist, woke Hollywood of 2026. If you've been paying attention to Gunn's declining creativity since the first Guardians of the Galaxy, Gunn's movies are not about telling profitable stories anymore. They are about reinforcing the agenda of cultural Marxism and political messaging that his superiors want to see delivered. And that globalist Marxist agenda will be presented much differently in Supergirl 2026 than the one Gunn intended with Superman 2025. His activist agenda last year to deconstruct the original American hero, to emasculate and humiliate him, rewrite his origin story so his noble and righteous parents were as evil and dehumanizing as General Zod, is not what you will see with his older sister. Just as Superman 2025 was deconstructed as an over-emotional, sycophantic wreck, desperately pleading to be loved and appreciated, a pathetic and defamed idealist who foolishly trusted his parents with his future, Supergirl will be reconstructed as the more rational and mature of the two siblings and the true savior of humanity. There are rules in modern Hollywood that its DEI writers will follow as religiously as a Puritan follows the Ten Commandments. You can map out the plot from start to finish, or at least map out what the plot will not be. Rule 1. A modern woman shall not have a man as an honest mentor or a legitimate guide. If she does, he is either holding her back from her potential, or it will turn out that he was deceiving her the whole time. Hollywood despises masculinity. Notice that I didn't say traditional because there is only one kind and it doesn't need a qualifier. As much as it despises the nuclear family, with a particular enmity for fathers and husbands. There will be no moment in Gunn's Supergirl wherein she learns anything of value from a man. Nothing to learn from her morally superior brother, or from any other man, immortal or human. This will be girls get it done every minute of its runtime. Rule number 2. Female superheroes shall not be beaten physically by men, neither in fisticuffs nor in competition, so we know she'll never have a revelatory moment like her brother did in the diner. To illustrate just how faithfully woke Hollywood adheres to this rule number 2, consider that scene in The Boys Season 2, wherein our morally ambiguous anti-hero protagonists literally curb stomp a modern-day female Nazi into submission. Even while bludgeoning their most hated stereotypical antagonist, Hollywood would never allow men to participate in the beatdown of a woman, even an evil one. For good reason. Nobody wants to watch that. Men have a primordial reaction to watching a woman suffer at the hands of male abuse. Our protective instincts, you know, the ones feminists call toxic masculinity, it kicks those into overdrive. Hollywood used to solve this problem easily. Men would save women from danger from abusive men. The male audience cheered, the female audience felt relief. But this leaves modern Hollywood, which has a deep resentment for the damsel in distress trope, in quite a quandary. Their progressive mindset won't allow for any female hero to be saved by anyone but herself, or another woman, no matter how unrealistic the circumstances might be. This diminishes the branching paths you'll see in Supergirl 2026 substantially. Rule number 3. Hollywood hates the United States of America, its history, its heroes, and its values. No matter what her redemption arc, Kara Zor-El will not be showing any reverence or allegiance to her country. Remember that these are the same people who changed Superman's motto of truth, justice, and the American way to the neo-Marxist and globalist sleight of hand, truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. Now diminished further to the snotty brat energy and dismissive
truth, justice, whatever
that Supergirl lives by.
Whatever.
Rule 4, no cheating. All right.
Overtaken completely by left-wing radicalism, activists who believe that the only truth is power, they no longer write stories about good and evil. Rather, every story must deconstruct this idea by flipping morality on its head, so the villain or anti-hero is only misunderstood or held back by societal expectations or gender roles or the patriarchy or some combination thereof. These commandments set your woke superhero story on guardrails. No deviations or risks of any kind will be taken. Her redemption arc will be the same tired trope we saw with Rey Palpatine, or Carol Danvers, or Ciri in The Witcher, or any other girl boss story you've watched in the past half-decade. She will come to realize that friends are better and more important than family, that her past ties to her parents don't define her.
We know!
You know, I know. I got it. I got the concept.
I know this is painful, we're almost done. Because I would be remiss to not mention the last travesty of nihilistic moral relativism in this trailer. Speaking of the brother she praised her dog for pissing on, the American hero she dismisses as a bitch.
Come on. Thanks for watching him, bitch.
Gunn's Supergirl says,
What Superman like?
He sees the good in everyone. And I see the truth.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
she sees her brother as not just a bitch, not just worthy of dog piddle, but hopelessly and childishly naive. Let me explain something to you, James.
And I'll use small words that you'll be sure to understand, you warthog-faced buffoon.
Choosing to see the good in people, even those who most consider evil, is not mutually exclusive with world-weary, sanctified wisdom. It is, in fact, an indispensable component of that kind of lifelong knowledge. See, that's the difference between your collective Hollywood hive mind, which immediately vilifies anyone who deviates from woke doctrine, such as J.K. Rowling, and the conservatives' individualistic, libertarian view of humanity. Seeing the nuanced value of every human life is more than Christian doctrine. It's the essence of true progressivism. Far removed from the regressive ideology you and your elites follow. It's the kind of begrudging tolerance which allows conservatives to coexist, even with those who claim to wish us dead. We see the good in Martin Luther King Jr.'s inclusive message, despite his Marxist leanings and his infidelity and deception of his own wife and family. We recognize the incredibly skilled oratory of Barack Hussein Obama, in spite of his fraudulent promises and his ongoing intentional corruption of our culture. And we see the incredible artistic talent of actresses like Kate Winslet and Viola Davis, and female writer-directors like Coralie Farjat and Catherine Bigelow, while gritting our teeth and rolling our eyes at their ludicrous and outdated claims against your industry's misogyny and patriarchal systems. In closing, I'm not telling you to skip seeing James Gunn's Supergirl in the theater. We all need mindless eye candy and escapist entertainment, and if that's what you felt Superman 2025 gave you, from this you can expect a little less of the same, with quite a bit more feminist messaging. Just don't expect this movie to inspire you, or resonate with you, or make you feel proud to be an American father or husband, or expect the movie to provide for a topic of conversation for more than the 5 minutes it takes to get to the parking lot. Remember, this movie was made by people who hate half the country simply because of how they vote every 4 years. And even if that's not you, you're financially supporting a pretty closed-minded and childish cadre of elites when you pay for them to lecture you for 2 hours. I am saying this, before you spend $118 on a family of 4, that's average movie ticket price plus popcorn, candy, and ices at your local cinema, power up your smart TV and look up Superman 1 and 2 in the search bar. It's either free or it will cost you less than $20. And you'll get a lot more out of it than you're ever going to get from DC Studios. All of their victories are in the past. If you've made it to the end, I thank you for listening. And if you'd like to see my reimagined version of the body horror movie The Substance, created anew for the real version of Hollywood that this film lampoons, click on the video on your screen right now.
Come to me, son of Jor